Hi, my name's Chris Whittle from Elinchrom. I am going to take you through step by step the Elinchrom ELC Pro HD. It's a kind of an assistance guide. I'm going to show you what it will do. I'm going to show you what it can't do. I'm going to show you how to work around some of the things that you will want to do to give you incredible creativity. For me, the most important thing is that by showing you the basics and showing you the rules, you will know how to break them. So let's get started. Okay, so let's look at the controls. Everything is on the back panel. The top left-hand corner is the on-off button. So I just press and release that, and you see the version number of the software and the display illuminates. Here we have the menu button, which will take us through the menus, as we'll see a little bit later. Here we have the preset buttons, which has behind it 4 user presets for customization. Here we have everything to do with the modeling lamp. And here we have 2 function buttons. The function buttons vary in effect according to the indicator here. So you'll see if I just press this button on the left, the display just went a little bit dim because I hadn't done anything for a minute. This would enable me to reduce the power in full stops. So I can go up in power, up 1 stop, down in power, -1 stop. But remember that this will change according to where we are in the menu system. Here it says test, and that means that this is a flash test button. As far as the display itself is concerned, it shows us on the top the status of Skyport. So the Skyport is on. It's in normal rather than speed mode. If it was in speed mode, it would say S there. It's on frequency 1. It's on group 1. The slave cell here is off. So if I just move my finger into the top here, the slave cell is off. Tone on recycle is on. I'll just make it bright again. You see on the right-hand side, I've got the power in joules, but also underneath that, the flash duration as a T0.5 number, and that is reading 4,440th of a second. So there's a huge amount of information available, and the idea is that you should know instinctively, the moment you look at the display, how the head is set up. Within this circle here, again, let's just bring it back. Within the circle here, this shows the recycle time. So this is the default recycle time. I can have slow if I choose, or I can have fast if I choose. Fast for the shortest, for the fastest working, slow for working with inverters on location and so on. The large number in the middle is the power. And you can see as I rotate this button here, so this is the ready button, but it's a test button, it's the ready light, and it's also the adjustment for the power and for the display itself. So minimum power, if I want to go down in full stops, takes me right down to 0.3, which is 8 watt seconds or 8 joules. And the flash duration there is a 2,940th of a second T0.5. I can go up to maximum power in whole stop steps, which gives me 522 watt seconds with a flash duration of 2,330th of a second. It really, really is very simple, and all the information is there. So let's now look at how I would change the settings. 1 pressure on the menu button gives me the display for the menu. It says at the top main menu, but you'll notice here that the function buttons here have now changed, so I can come back 1 step, or I can come all the way out, and you'll see that later, and I've got the menu options. I take the rotating control here, and this enables me just to go quickly through the various menus. Let's look at them one at a time. The first one is photocell. The second one is Skyport. The third is audio. The fourth is flash mode. The fifth is power settings. The sixth is statistics. So let's go back up to the top. Photocell. I select photocell by pressing the button, and you can see I've got the choice of off, on, pre-flash sequences, and for pre-flash sequences, I've got the setup option. In this case, I'll have my slave cell on. In fact, let's just set the pre-flash sequence for use with speedlights. To set it up, I simply press the button. I can either select auto setup, which means that I fire my speedlight at the slave cell, and the slave cell is just here. The slave cell reads the pre-flash sequence and sets it automatically, and then the unit comes back to the beginning. So let's go back in that menu to where we were. We go into the main menu, we go to photocell, we go to our pre-flash and set up a pre-flash. I could have selected auto setup just by pressing the button, selecting it, and the unit would wait for the pre-flash, or I can come back one step and go to a manual setup. The manual setup here enables me to choose the number of pre-flashes, including the main flash. So if I had 2 pre-flashes and 1 main flash, and I knew I had that, I would simply select pre-flash number 3, and then come out of the menu. And what's interesting is now on the display, you see for the slave cell, by the side of the little slave cell motif, it says PF3. So it tells me that it's set to pre-flash 3. Let's go back into that menu again. Photocell, we can turn it off or leave it on. When I'm demonstrating, generally, I turn the slave cell off for the obvious reason that I don't want anybody else firing the flash whilst I'm demonstrating it. And now we came out of the menu there. It shows that the slave cell is off. So that's everything to do with the slave cell or the photo cell. Skyport, let's come to the next one. Select Skyport. I can have Skyport off. I can have Skyport on normal. I can have Skyport on speed, which is R2. And then underneath that, I can set the groups and the channels. Well, actually, I want to use the unit on the normal Skyport setting. I don't need the speed setting. So now all I need to do is set up the group. Here, I can set up to 1, 2, 3, or 4. So let me set, for argument's sake, group 4. Channel, here, I select the channels. But this time, you'll notice that instead of having the traditional 8 channels that we've got at the moment, I also have channels 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. In fact, it goes right up to channel 20. For the first 8, because we've got the dip switches on the traditional Skyport system, it shows the position of the dip switches. So channel 1 shows the dip switch positions, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which means you'll never need to refer to the instruction manual to set up the dip switches on your Skyport trigger. Let's suppose I've set channel 4. If I want to go back just 1 level, I simply press the back 1 level button here, and then I'm ready to make any other changes that I want to make. On the other hand, if I want to come all the way out, I simply press the right-hand button, and it brings me right back to the start. So let's now look at the third menu, which is the audio menu. Again, I select it with this button here. I can select the beep volume, the beep tone, the key click. The beep volume selected here, I can have off, minimum, low, default, high, or maximum. And you can actually hear the volume as you're going through. Well, let's leave it where it is. Come back 1 stage, and let's look at the beep tone. Again, select the beep tone, tone 1, tone 2, tone 3, tone 4, tone 5, tone 6, tone 7, tone 8, tone 9, tone 10. And if I want to select any of those, I simply select it. And again, to come back 1 level, if I want to do, I would just use this. But actually, by selecting it, it's taking me back into the menu that I want, because now I want to look at the key click. Select the key click. Again, I can have it off, low, default, high, maximum. And if I just, you might just be able to hear the key clicks. Again, that's everything to do with the sound. So let's come back 1 menu. Let's come back 2 menus. And let's now select the flash mode. We've got the default flash mode, which is normal flash operation. So I would use my Skyport or my synchronization lead, and the head would work, just giving me one flash for one exposure. I've got sequence, I've got delayed, and I've got strobo. Now, if I look at sequence, this will enable me to sequence up to 20 heads. If I select sequence, I've got sequence setup, and you'll see how it works from the setup. Press the button. The first thing to do is to address the unit. So I press this button, and I'm going to give this unit address number 1 out of a total of 20. So this is unit number 1. I select it. I then go down to the second option, which is the total number of units. I press and select it. I can select the total number of units. Well, let's suppose that I wanted to recycle to 500 watt seconds at 10 frames a second, with a motor drive at 10 frames a second. And let's suppose, therefore, that I had 6 heads, because each of these units will recycle to full power in 0.6 of a second. What I would then do is, and we've already selected the sequence, we go to sequence setup. My unit address on the first one is 1, which I've selected. The total number of units I've decided is going to be 6, so I set the total number of units here as 6. That's now selected. If I come out of the menu, you'll see that the display shows me that the unit is set with the slave cell off. It shows quite clearly that it's set to frequency 4 and group 4 on the Skyport, and the Skyport is set to normal. It shows me that it's at full power, 522 watt seconds, and it shows me that it's set to sequence mode where this head is 1 of 6. If I wanted, I could have a motor drive firing at 10 frames a second with my 6 heads lined up in position, and what would happen is the first shot would fire the first head, the second shot the second head, the third shot the third head, and so on. So the heads would simply cycle through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Logically speaking, because you can use up to 20 heads, if you want to shoot at 20 frames a second, if you had a motor drive that would shoot at 20 frames a second, you could do it. And you choose how much power you need. Now that's something that you could never do before. The thing that it's worth mentioning is that if I press the test button here, that gives me 500 watt seconds. It recycles in 0.6 of a second. But it only fires one flash because the test button is the test button. What we don't want is pressing the test button to fire the whole sequence. And for that reason, the sequences and all of these special features are controlled from the Skyport. So the Skyport is either on your camera and the hot shoe will synchronize, or the Skyport is in your hand to make a test. Now obviously I've only got one flash unit here, so I can't show you how this sequence would work. I also haven't got a camera with a motor drive, so I can't show you how this sequence would work. So let's come to then the next option. Again, to menu. Again, we've done photocell, we've done Skyport, we've done audio, we've come to flash mode. I select flash mode. We, this time, will select delayed. I don't have to unselect sequence because it's a positive process. It will simply select whatever I want. So now let's select delayed. Delay setup, which is the next option, so I select it, enables me to create a second curtain sync situation with a camera that doesn't have second curtain sync. In fact, what it enables me to do is synchronize at any point through the exposure of the camera up to the maximum time. So let's just have a look and see what that maximum time is. And you can see I've got a delay of 100 milliseconds here. That's 100 thousandths of a second. I can change the increments. It shows on the right-hand side the increments. So I can have 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, or I can have 100, or 10, or 1 millisecond to set the time that I actually want. That is the delay that I want within the exposure time. This would be used typically for mixing ambient light and flash, or multiple flash units within a single exposure. Again, let's go into the flash mode, delayed, delayed setup. What I want to do is show you the maximum time that you can set, and it's 10 seconds. So you could have a number of heads firing within a shutter time frame, a shutter open time frame of 10 seconds. You could be combining the drag effect of ambient light with flash effects within that time. And now you'll see that on the display, it tells me that I've got the delay set, you can see it here, and it's 10,000 milliseconds. One of the other things that this could be used for is if you know that you want to anticipate a shutter firing, and in other words, you want the flash to fire a little bit before the shutter fires, maybe for some kind of hypersync purpose or whatever. Within a short sequence, if you've got the camera set to maybe 10 frames a second, you know the difference between each shot is going to be about 100 milliseconds, and it might be that you deliberately set your flash to fire after 97 milliseconds, which would make your flash late for the first exposure, but 3 milliseconds before the second exposure. Now again, we don't know how ultimately this could be used. We don't know all the places where this could be used, but we do know that creativity has no boundaries. The facility is there. We want you to play with these systems and just see what you can make out of them. Let's go back now and look at our flash mode options again. We finished with the delayed. Let's look at strobo. Strobo set up here. I select it with the selector button. I select the setup, and it gives me the frequency and the duration. If I select frequency, I can have the frequency in hertz from 1 hertz, which is 1 flash per second, up to 20 hertz, which is 20 flashes per second. Let's suppose I choose 10 hertz. Then my next option is a duration. So I select the duration. And the duration can be anything from a half a second right the way through to 5 seconds. Well, let's leave it at 5 seconds and let's just see what happens. So I select that. I come out of the menu. So now I've got the unit set to frequency 1 group 1, which is what I've got my Skyport set to. I've got strobo mode, 5 seconds at 10 hertz. I take the Skyport here, I press the button, and notice what happens. The fan comes on louder because the fan obviously is having to work quite hard to now cool the charge circuits. But this unit isn't saying, help, you're destroying me. It's saying, look guys, I can't do that. I'll do my best. I will give you 10 hertz, but I'll only give you whatever power is available. And it tells you with the beeping that it will not give you the power that you need. So what's our mistake? Our mistake is simply having too much power set. So let's reduce the power. Let's go down in full stops and let's do it a different way around. Do it a different way. Let's have the power very low and see what happens when I've got the power at 8 watt seconds. Press it again. You have got 10 hertz for 5 seconds at 8 watt seconds. Every single flash is a perfect flash. Every exposure is to within 1/10 of a stop, and the color temperature on each exposure is absolutely spot on. Let's just do something a bit more sensible. Let's go to flash mode, let's go to strobo, and let's play a real game. Strobo setup. Duration, let's make that 2 seconds. So we select it. Frequency, let's make that 5 hertz. Maybe because I've got a dancer and I know the dancer is going to move a third, maybe a fifth of the way across the frame over that time frame. So I select that and I come out of the menu. So it tells me here I've got 8 watt seconds, strobo, 2 seconds at 5 hertz. And of course that works perfectly at 8 joules. But let's go up in power, let's go to 16. Let's go up in power again, 33. Let's go up in power again, 66. Oh, sorry, 65. Let's go up in power again, 131 watt seconds. This is a really, really usable amount of power. 131 watt seconds, 5 frames a second, 2 hertz. Again, every flash correctly exposed to within 1/10 of a stop. In fact, within better than that. Every flash, a full flash curve, the color temperature on each will be perfectly matched. So the story isn't about what this unit will do. It's about what you feel you would like to do with this unit. Because of its very short recycling time, it will enable you to work very quickly. You can take the color temperature for granted. You can take the flash duration for granted. So as I said earlier, get the day job out of the way, and then in the extra time that you've created, think about how you can use some of these features to play and to create truly unique lighting effects. Interesting thing, of course, I've completely messed up this menu. And if anybody else was coming to use this unit after I've set it as it is now, they might worry about how to put it back to default settings. It's really simple. Simply take the 2 arrow buttons here, press and release, and the unit will reset itself to factory default settings. We have a couple of other menus to do, so let's just have a quick look at those. Again, we've looked at the flash mode. I did quickly go to power settings because I wanted to put it onto fast recycle. Let's select that. I've got auto standby, I've got auto off, I've got recycling time. If I go to auto standby, I select it. I can then choose the amount of time that the unit will, in which the unit will go to auto standby. The default setting, as you can see here, is 30 minutes. Let's just go back one menu step, go to auto off, select auto off. The unit can auto off in a maximum time of 10 hours, or it can have auto off switched off completely. Go back one menu level, again, back to recycling time, just to remind you where we are. Recycling time, slow for use with inverters out on location, default is the default setting, and fast for use with strobo mode and various other things. Interestingly, most of the photographers that I talk with who are using this unit generally use the unit on fast because, again, there's nothing to be lost. If the unit can't do something, it will simply tell you it can't do it. It will still give you a flash, but you'll get the buzzer and the red light on the ready button here just to warn you that you're pushing the unit too hard. It won't blow up. It won't do anything otherwise spectacular. It will just do the best it can, but warn you that you're asking a little bit too much of it. Back to the menus again. The very last one is statistics. If we press statistics, you'll notice here it tells us that this particular unit has been powered on 13 times. Its lifetime is 4 hours and 28 minutes. The actual time since we last turned it on is 2 minutes. And I've got a second screen here just by, again, rotating the button. Total of 294 exposures, no exposures this session. And because this unit was a new unit when we started, this flash tube has only done 294 exposures. Again, here I can go back just one level, or I can come all the way out, and it times out and comes back to the start menu. On the right-hand side here, we've got the modeling lamp control, and we've got the presets control. Modeling lamp, if I press the button, I've got off. In fact, I have to toggle that off, free, or proportional. But you'll notice I've got 2 different functions here now on these function buttons. Here, this enables me to choose a power range for the modeling lamp, by which I mean this is a 500 head. If I set this to -1 f-stop, and I'm using it in conjunction with a 1000 head, then the modeling lamp range of this head will be 1 stop down on the modeling lamp range of the 1000 head, which with a 300 watt modelling lamp in both means that between the two heads, the modelling lamp is proportional. Again, if I come to here, to the modelling lamp menu, this takes me all the way out, but I've also got VFC on this button here. And if I press VFC, the VFC indicator shows, and what that means is that when I fire this unit, when the modelling lamp is on, so let's just, in fact, I've got it on proportional. Let's just go to free, and let's just wind the modelling lamp up. So we've got the modelling lamp on full now. If I come out of the menu, when I fire this, you can see that the modelling lamp dims to tell me that the unit is recycling. Presets. If I press the preset button, I can toggle through preset 1, preset 2, preset 3, preset 4. There's 4 presets. If I like a certain mode, if I always want to have the unit on fast recycle, for example, I can set save or exit the menu here. So going to presets again, whatever is set up on there now, I can save as preset 1. And when I come out of that, if I need to go back to presets, I can either load an existing preset or I can save a new preset into a different preset channel. Again, this is the reason why the OLED display is so impressive. There are quite a lot of units in the marketplace that have LED displays or LCD displays. But the OLED display is a dynamic display. The function buttons, the process that the function buttons give us changes according to where you are in the menus. So the OLED display, which is active, always gives us up-to-date information. A couple of other little party pieces. If I want to put the unit into standby mode, I simply press and very quickly release the on-off button, and you'll see that we have the LED, just the beating heart, showing here that the unit is ready to go the moment I press the button again. If I want to turn it off, I simply press and hold it for a couple of seconds, and you get that little dot that disappears in the middle of the television screen, just to remind us all how pleased we are that we don't have black and white televisions at home. So, I hope I haven't bored you too much. There was a lot of information, there was a lot of detail. The most important thing of all to remember is this. If you find yourself somewhere in the menu system that you don't want to be, and you want to put it straight back to factory default settings, there are 2 essential buttons here. Simply press the 2 together and release them. You're back to factory defaults and ready to play again. Have fun.